Okay, here's the deal. I went out and I purchased a set of these Acell coils. They're the 140 403 super coils by Acell. I bought the kit, the whole kit. Comes with all the brackets and mounting hardware and everything. Comes with these things here. Comes with these. Comes with a bag of nuts, bolts, and screws and everything you're gonna need to mount them up. Hardware kit, whole schmear. Great kit, great stuff. Comes with a diagram. Tells you all about, you know, cylinder model applications, how to, so on and so forth. And the Acell dual tower coils, all the, you know, it's just the whole forum tells you all about it. Online tells you all about it. Now, what I did was, I Googled up Acell coils, and a video popped up of this guy who had some of these installed on another bike for somebody else or something he was doing, and I was really blown away by how simple it was to mount them on there. The only thing that I'm doing different is the way I'm mounting these to my bike, and I'm utilizing the original brackets like he said, but my mounting points are a little bit different because on the 1000s I don't have a hole that I could just bolt this bracket to. This bracket here bolts in here across there like so, and then the coils hang from that with these clips, and then they hang in a downward position like so. Now, I'm a modifier, so I already had to cut the snorkel back for the Dana coils I was initially running. I got these Dana coils. They lasted 13 months and then they crapped out. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend the money again, I'm going to buy something different, and hopefully I'll get a little better life out of them, I guess. Now, the wires that come out of your wiring harness right here, you got your signal wires, and then you have your power side wires. Now, if you know anything about these motorcycles at all, the way that the wiring schematic is made up is that there's so many breakpoints between where it gets its voltage initially and to where the connection ends up. So in other words, at the battery it might be 12.6, right, just sitting there, 12.6, 12.3, something like that, and then it goes from there to the key switch to the into the on and off switch, and then there's a break point for the starter button, and then from the starter button it makes its way through the harness, and eventually when you're on and off on your switch, you're getting your power on and off here for your signal points for your coils to turn your coils on and off. Well, these motorcycles here, they're so old that for whatever reason, if you've ever noticed, when you use your multimeter, one like that will say, when you use your multimeter at your battery, you'll have, you know, 12.3, 12.6 at the battery. Well, you'll notice your gauge cluster up on top, the voltage, when you do an actual volt test, or even the meter itself will actually show the voltage laying low, and then sometimes the voltage here might be 11.5 or just barely 12. So when you hit your starter button on your handlebar up there, that voltage is already 11 volts or 11.5, or we'll just say barely 12, and as soon as you hit the button, the voltage disappears to the coil, and there's barely any spark or any signal, or not signal, but there's barely any power going to the wires to feed the coils to amplify the voltage for your spark. So, you know, you got that issue to deal with too. So what I'm going to do is not only am I going to mount these Acell coils on here, I'm also going to mount one of these on there. It's just a standard relay It's 12 volt DC, 30 or 40 amp pull, 5-pin. I'm going to take this relay and put it on the bike and use direct power from the battery on its own wiring circuit directly to these coils from the battery. So that way there is no chance of a voltage drop. It will be 12 point whatever when it makes contact with this bolt and this bolt over here, because the other two on the inside are your signals. Now, I left this thing all loosey-goosey, and I also utilized Allen head screws. The reason why I did that is that when you mount your coils to your existing bracket, initially the coils sat flush against there. So initially I had to put those on the grinding wheel and burn them down a little bit, so that way these monster frickin' coils with their huge ass O-ring lips on them would sit into that bracket. Well, the only thing I did different is I turned these brackets around and flipped them. So by doing that, oh well, the other thing I did was, like I was saying about modifications, is to utilize the original, not the original, I'm sorry, to utilize the Dana Coils. This snorkel is too long. What ends up happening is that this thing ends up smashing into the boot. So like when you plug that into the coil like so, this part here is all up against here, or all, you know, so there's a clearance issue here. So I knocked off probably about 3 inches now, I would say, pretty damn close. I just knocked it back so that way I'd have clearance room. So these coils here are go in there just like, there's some junk sitting on top of the wires and stuff, but they go in there just like that. So as you can see, there is no problem for clearance with the wires and everything. So when I put my new boots on there, I won't have any clearance issues here getting involved. I also filed that down and cleaned that edge up and everything, so it's not sharp. So the other reason why I'm utilizing Allen bolts is and I'm leaving this loose, is so that way when I run my bolt in on the other side coming this way to tighten this bracket down as well as that bracket down, I'll have this bracket in place. There's plenty of play between here and here for you know, adjustment, up, down, left, right, in, out, aft, forward. So that way there's no problems. Now, and also you can get an Allen wrench in there. That's the other advantage, is that you can get an Allen wrench in there from the back, because that's just sitting in there. Not that you would have that in there when you're working. That just pops out like that. And then now I'll spin it around. You can see it this way, so you can get an Allen wrench in there without any trouble. Without any trouble at all. No clearance issues. None. So that way you can tighten it all down. So, like I said, the only difference is between that video and this video is how this is mounted. This initially was like this, with these two brackets in play, and then there was this bracket in play as well. But I'm not going to do it like that. I just said there must be a different way. I mean, everybody has their own way, so you know, you can do it your way. But this is just another way to show you how you can do it. And the only modification I had to make to these coils to get them mounted onto the bracket was they're little plastic lips that go around here. All I did was I cut it with a box cutter, so that, and I also grinded that edge down on the aluminum a little bit right here and kind of made a rolled edge so it would sit flush. And then the only other thing that I'm going to do is there's a solid ground wire that ties into your harness from you know, for the coil ground. You know, I'm sure you've seen it. It goes right there, or on the other side, or whichever way it goes there. But this is your this ground will be back in place, of course. But the other thing is that I'm going to do is on this bracket, because I'm a ground fanatic, because grounds are just as important as hots, especially when you're dealing with this type of situation. I'm going to run some leads like these. These are just examples. I'm going to put that right in between there, and I'm going to ground this to the frame too, so that way these get the proper grounding. Make sure everybody's grounded, and then install this relay. Now there's a great tutorial on how this relay works, and relays are real simple. You got your signal, which is your on and off. Your on and off, which would work just like your kill switch up here. So you're probably thinking, well, shit, man, if you put a relay in there, how are you gonna let me pause and go start 2.